I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jerem Jordan. It is our pleasure to welcome in our friend, Trevor Matich of ESPN, college football insider and expert national champion.
Emmy Award winner.
Yes, we're going to start this on a very positive note. You won an Emmy, Trevor. Congratulations, man. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. No, that's fun. That's it's for analysis of the Washington football team. And I won it for sports analyst. So that's a lot of fun. It'll look nice up on the shelf when I get it there. Right now, all the Emmys are actually in boxes in a closet. So we'll see where we put this one.
All the Emmys. How many have you won now?
I think this one's 16.
Woo!
I have to go back and count.
Well-deserved. Well-deserved, sir.
We're just trying to get a regional Emmy, Trevor. Gosh.
Yeah, you notice, though, they're not up on a shelf behind me. They're in a closet, so, you know.
Okay, Trevor, energy is high now after the Emmy conversation, and we're going to do our best to keep it high because we're not sure if college football is going to happen. What we're hearing this morning is that the Big Ten and Pac-12 are really far down the road and just moments essentially away from shutting down their conference seasons and all of fall sports. The SEC, the ACC apparently want to play. Big 12, we haven't heard a ton from over the last week. What do you think is going to happen with the college football season? Will they play in some form or not?
I think there's still a chance you'll see Power 5 college football, even though if the Big Ten does shut it down as reported and the Pac-12 follows suit. Now all eyes turn toward the Big 12, who have stated that they want to play a 12-game season. Now, you know, the week is young, and the last 24 hours have been pretty exciting when it comes to whether or not there'll be a Power 5 season. But the Big 12 has said they want to play. The ACC is all set up with Notre Dame as a member of their football conference for this year, which is exciting. And, of course, the SEC starts at the end of September, and they have stated that they're holding back.
When you look at the Power 5 conferences, you were saying that you think the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12, we could see some form of that. What about the group of 5 conferences like the American and the Mountain West? Do you think they're on board from what you're hearing in your circles?
I think they could be on board. The financial ramifications of not playing football in the group of 5 are far less severe. They're still severe, but not as severe. And with with some conferences in the Power 5, if not all, not playing football, that puts the group of 5 center stage in the fall college football window. And so there would be even more incentive for the group of 5 to showcase what they do, as long as they feel like they can keep their players safe.
Then you have the player movement, right? So we have #WeAreUnited. There are Big Ten and Pac-12 players saying we need certain things to want to play, right? And that's going beyond COVID as well, but that's certainly the instigator here. Then Trevor Lawrence and others, Justin Fields of Ohio State and others, kind of leading this charge of we want to play united with We Are United. What do you think of that movement from the players that who knows what that means for now and later with players in the NCAA?
Yeah, I think that'll have long-term ramifications. And I think it'll start with just something as simple as players being covered for a longer time after their college playing career for orthopedic issues that may be related to football that would pop up later in life. Right now, there is some coverage of that for a little while, and depending on what the injury was. But I think most people are in a place right now that if there is college football, and if a player does contract COVID-19 and it creates some sort of long-term organ damage, most people believe that the schools or the NCAA should take care of that subset of players long-term as long as they need to be taken care of. Well, even if none of that materializes with a canceled season, for example, I think the concept is now on the table and accepted that there should be more medical care for a longer time for players. And now we back away from organ damage that caused by COVID-19 to players that have a bad knee and they're limping around on it and they need a knee replacement 15 years later. And I think those kinds of things are now firmly on the table. And I think they've already been accepted. They just aren't talked about because of the severity of the potential of COVID-19 problems.
Trevor, who should make the decision on whether the players play the game in 2020?
You know, I think it should be the players and their parents. There are a lot of competing interests here. The university presidents take seriously their charge to take care of their students and their student athletes. The lawyers are telling them, hey, there's liability here. And even if players sign a waiver, it might not hold up in court. The accountants are telling them, look, the Power 5 average school is going to lose, according to USA Today, $78 million this year if they don't play football. So the bean counters are in their ear on the other side. The medical experts are saying something else. There's all kinds of stuff. And by the way, the medical experts are not in agreement. So ultimately, I think it should come down to the players and their parents. Some will opt out. Some already have. Others will choose to play either for the love of the game or because of the opportunities that it might provide at the next level for a few of them. But some will want to play. And I think ultimately, because there are so many competing interests, the courageous choice by the university presidents would not be to cancel the season. The courageous choice would be to play the season. Because if you cancel the season, you won't be sued for liability by anybody. You just won't. If you play the season, then players have a chance to do the things that they want to do, the reasons for which they might choose to opt in. And then there's also some risk that some of the other problems will happen. So I think ultimately the choice morally, in my opinion, belongs to the players. I think from a practical standpoint, the choice belongs to the liability lawyers.
Well said. Regarding the effect on BYU, in theory, if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 say we're not going to play, and the other three Power Five say they're going to play, and everybody, the other four Group Fives but the MAC say we're going to play, BYU can have a season in theory, but do you think there will be a domino effect where other leagues will say they don't want to play, or do you think this could be isolated to the MAC, the Big Ten, and potentially the Pac-12?
I just don't know. I think the Big Ten is such an important bellwether for the rest of college football. And if the Pac-12 joins them, it'll be awfully hard now for other conferences, Power Five or a Group of Five, to not follow suit. Because again, if something does happen, if there's an outbreak and if a couple of the guys have serious long-term ramifications, which is possible even in that age group, then the narrative will be that, look, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, they shut it down to avoid what you will just allow to happen, right? And so I think that is another thing that's heaped on top of the good arguments, reasonable arguments that the liability lawyers that are advising university presidents will be giving. At the same time, you know, I think baseball and what's happening there right now is a good omen for college football. You've got some teams that have had outbreaks, starting with the Miami Marlins. I don't know what they claim now as their city, the Miami Marlins. They play in Fort Lauderdale, so we'll call them the Fort Lauderdale Marlins. They had a big outbreak, you know, half the team at one point, maybe more now. Other teams, though, most teams don't have a positive test yet. And I think that could be an eye-opener for college football, because one of the things that they would need to do in order to make it work, those who might choose to play, is make exceptions to certain rules like athletic dorms, which are not legal right now. You have to have at least 51% of a housing facility non-athletic, right? Well, now I think what they need to do is allow an athletic dorm that's only athletes, so you can kind of make a mini bubble. Also, allow athletes to go to class online only from their facilities and their academic facilities with tutors to help them with their classes that are tested just as much as the players are, and allow that kind of sequestration that normally is against NCAA rules. And those are some of the things that, if there is play, that will have to happen. But I think that as some conferences may drop out, other conferences might say, okay, we want to play, and the players might be a little less likely to go to a party and cause an outbreak like happened at Louisville here recently, where 20-some, 30 or so student athletes of different sports tested positive. It was all traced to somebody through a party. And so I think now we have so much real vision, so much reality, that I think it actually is a good thing for those college teams who may choose to play, because it makes it more likely that they'll be able to exclude the virus from their ecosystem.
I wish this could happen. It's not going to, but isn't BYU set up with the perfect facility right next to campus, technically on campus, to house the athletes in a pseudo bubble this season, Trevor? The Missionary Training Center?
BYU is set up really well for that. Plus, there's the nature of the kind of player who chooses to experience their college life with the honor code. I think makes it less likely that there will be as many temptations for as many guys that could cause a problem where they would become patient zero. And so for BYU, since most of the Power Five opportunities are gone now, really probably all of them, then it becomes a question of whether or not they can scare up enough competition in either the FCS, or I don't know if the Group of Five will want to play an independent. Maybe they won't at this point. Certainly there are some other independents, but they're all located way far away for the most part. BYU, I think, could cobble together a 7 or 8 game season. Part of the problem is the Big Sky Conference, which is the FCS conference that I think would provide most of those teams, or at least many of them, that BYU could play in their region. Looks like they're shut down. So it's a matter of whether or not they can get enough opponents. I would like to see BYU play, in part because I think the guys deserve to, and in part because I have full faith that they will have the discipline to make sure that if the virus does get into their complex, it is not because somebody was stupid.
ESPN's Trevor Matich with us on BYU Sports Nation. Trevor, I read a statement from a Nebraska senator earlier in the show, and I want to read a very short part of that and then get your reaction to it. In part, he says, canceling the fall season would mean closing down socially distanced, structured programs for these athletes. Young men will be pushed away from universities that are uniquely positioned to provide them with testing and health care. Trevor, is it better or worse for college football players to not have a season or have a season? Like, are they better off not playing football, or would they be more safe playing football?
Well, it depends on the true nature of the threat of this virus. If it were Ebola or hepatitis, no, don't play. But a lot of doctors have stated, a lot of studies have shown that the threat is kind of minimal in terms of the actual ramifications of testing positive for this disease for healthy players in their age group. Now, for the ones that struggle with that aren't in that most of, it's a real problem. I mean, there's a offensive lineman at the University of Indiana whose mother says that he has got heart damage now, heart issues that will be ongoing because he had coronavirus. Now, I'm not sure if that's true, but that is very scary. And so I think that it depends on the ramifications of the virus itself. But I will say this, and this is important for people to know, that college football programs are by and large one of the best things that young men can be involved with, because they provide structure, they provide accountability, they provide character-driven curricula, I guess, that are really important for the development of young men, especially young men that don't come from a home that has a father in it. You know, I came from a home with a divorced mother of 4. And college football was this amazing structure for me, and I loved it. There are so many unguided missiles among college-age young men. But college football coaches create programs where they bring in, for example, speakers, where women who have been abused will come in and tell their story to a group of 100 college football players in their meeting room. And all of a sudden, what those college football players do because they think it's fun to women, they will find that it's real. They will look a true victim in the eye and hear her story and change their view and their perspective of how their behavior affects other people. Now, for some, it goes in one ear and out the other, but for many, it will change their life, and they will become leaders to help change other people's lives. That is just one example of the good that college football does because of their structure and because of their character building specifics that will not be available if campuses are shut down, college football is shut down, and everybody disperses to where they came from. So one thing is the social distancing, right? But another thing is the character development and the accountability of your friends, your leaders in the locker room, and your coaches. And that is such a positive thing. And whether or not avoiding COVID makes it worth it to get rid of all that for a season is a different question. That's a medical expert question, I think. But from a standpoint of what they lose if they're not there is immense.
Trevor, it's great to have you with us, and that's probably a huge understatement. We appreciate you being part of BYU Sports Nation for your knowledge and your insight. And
you're an Emmy Award winner like 16 times, so that's awesome.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
It's great to talk to you, Trevor. Thank you. Trevor Matich on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, you know why, we show how.
Brings up